Hello. All right. Give me one moment. I am going to do two at once and go live on Facebook and now I'm live on Instagram. Hello. All right. So, while I'm going live, I'm probably going to start doing my makeup because I have to pick up my blue light blocking glasses before the shop closes, and I really need them because my eyes have just been feeling so awful and just fatigued and squinty eyed lately. So I was coming on here today to talk about how I optimized my time when I first started out as a virtual assistant before I became an online business manager. So it was probably, or it was actually really a year ago now, or just over, I set off to travel New Zealand and I became a virtual assistant. I kind of just found the term online, and that's a whole other story, but yeah, I kind of just found it and ran with it essentially. And it was really great while I was traveling. I was able to make money and kind of go wherever I want. And I was doing something that I was good at and I really loved. And it really didn't take me, hi Louise, I don't know if you're still on here, but it didn't really take me very long at all to figure out that I really loved working online and building my own business. So when I decided to get super duper serious, I started to realize how much there really was to do on the back end of my business if I really wanted to grow and scale. And I was just, when I first started and wanted to take this off, I was just so overwhelmed with the amount. Hi Morgan. I don't know if you're still on here, but I was just super overwhelmed and I really knew that something needed to change. So I devised this whole time management system that I put in place for myself that really worked for me. And that is what I'm pretty much sharing today. So when I decided to get super duper serious and realizing that I was just drowning every single day in the back end of my business, I pretty much just took a sheet of paper essentially and wrote out every single task that I could think of that I was already doing or that I knew that I needed to start doing if I wanted to get really serious about this. So took that piece of paper, wrote down kind of one-off tasks that I needed to do, like say just get my website up and running. But then at least for me, the longer list was all the reoccurring tasks. So social media, getting on or writing a blog post, updating my website, things like that. And just even, email marketing. So all of that was the reoccurring tasks that was a super long list that I was having a hard time managing beforehand. So once I had my super long list and a big sheet of paper, I think I probably had 2 sheets of paper, to be honest. I'm going to start doing my makeup now because I'm just realizing the time. Once I had that list, I wrote out on another sheet of paper what days I could actually genuinely commit to working on the back end of my business. So was it only 5 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever it was, I wrote out how many days in a week I could commit to the back end of my business. And also I wrote down how many hours in each of those days I could commit. So for me at the time, I can't really remember, but I think Thursdays, I knew that I could only commit, say, 3 hours of my time. Whereas every other day, I had lots more time. I had about 6 hours a day. So once I established what I could realistically commit, like be super like on point about this. Don't try and stretch yourself. If you're like, Thursdays, sometimes I could work 3 hours, sometimes I could work 4 hours, just say that you can work 3 hours and that is it. If you end up, if a Thursday rolls around and, hey, I can actually commit 4 or 5 hours today, great. But don't set yourself up for failure, essentially, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So once I had all of that outlined on a bunch of scribbles, essentially, at least it looked like for me on my sheets of paper, I took my task list and combined or grouped them, I guess, into how many days of the week that I was setting aside for the back end of my business. So I was able to commit 5 days a week. So what I did on that task list, I made groups of 5. And essentially what it is, and I know that a lot, well, I'm not sure if it's a lot, but I have definitely heard it before. It's essentially wearing a different hat in your business every day. But what I'm kind of going to explain next is what really changed the game for me in terms of my time and how productive I was. So when I first started using this method of wearing a different hat and grouping my tasks into my work, however many working days I had, I kind of grouped things like, so anything to do with social media into one day, which didn't really work for me because social media is quite, there's just a lot of different tasks that you can do with it, or under that umbrella, I guess. You have to be super creative to create your captions. You have like little mini photo shoots with yourself. You have to schedule your content. There's hashtag research, Pinterest research, which for me, I'm not an like super duper creative person. So when I first started using this method and I put my social media hat on one day, I was trying to be creative in the beginning to create captions, but then all of a sudden kind of wind myself down and start scheduling everything. And it just didn't, I just feel like because I was in 2 different headspaces, it just did not really work at all. I just wasn't productive. I couldn't kind of go from this super zoned out, trying to be inspirational and brainstorming caption ideas and being creative, like how can I say this in a different way. I couldn't go from that to, or vice versa, to just sitting down and trying to be strategic about creating a new hashtag list and library and all that stuff. So I started using this strategy and then I revamped it, and that is when things really started to change for me. So I still had that task list and I had the 5 days that I set aside for my work. So I essentially had to go back and regroup my tasks that I was doing each day. Just rearrange the groups and what tasks were in it. So I really focused on, and I guess this is a little bit kind of mindset-y, it was just kind of what zone you're in for those tasks. So as I was saying before, I'm not super creative and I have a hard time getting into a creative headspace. And I would set that aside, like all my creativity, like writing creativity, all that content. So whether it was captions, writing an email or a blog post, I would set all those tasks that I would, all those tasks that I guess in that one mindset that I could do in that creative mindset, I set those for one day. So for me, that was always Monday. I was always pumping out some sort of content. So it was still like a social media type umbrella day or a hat, whatever you want to call it. But my headspace was my creative headspace that followed through with all those, or that I followed through, I guess, with in all of those tasks. And then another day is when I would be a bit more, say, maybe strategic and looking for new hashtags, really deep dive into my Pinterest and see what keywords are working, what graphics are performing better, doing all those kind of research type tasks. I always track my analytics each month for all of my socials and website. So that was always on a more strategy kind of focused day. And then from there, I knew that, at least for me, the day that I knew I could not commit much time for, which was a Thursday for me, I would do those tasks that wouldn't take very long. So for me, at least in the beginning, the HR finance tasks that I knew I needed to at least be focused and be, not, they didn't take a lot of time, but I also didn't want to rush them because obviously they were super important. I wanted to make sure I was giving out correct invoices to my clients. Very few times, hiring like a subcontractor or something like that. I wanted to make sure like I was paying them correctly, or if I was looking for one, I wanted to make sure, they were qualified or I connected with them and whatnot. So that, I hope that all makes sense. And I know that this kind of time management or optimization strategy or process is used by a lot of people, and I'm not like the first one to really come up with it, but I feel what really changed the game and improved my productivity and just skyrocketed it was not necessarily, I guess, putting on a different, well, I guess it was a different hat, but really grouping your tasks together and making sure all the tasks under that hat that you're wearing for that day are somewhat similar enough, and to know what kind of headspace you are in when you're wearing that hat. Because like I said, like I know that some people definitely are way more creative than I am, but that is not my strongest suit, to sit down and write and just kind of zone out and get those creative juices flowing. So I want to make sure if I'm going to do that, I know I kind of have to do it a lot in my business because you do want to be on social media, connect through email marketing. So if it's hard for me to do that, I don't want to always be doing it a few times a week. I kind of just want to do it once, or even if I can do it bi-weekly, that's even better. Just get, put on that super creative hat once and zone out, which is super hard for me. If I can just do it once and batch some of the tasks that I can do, that, yeah, that was pretty much gold for me. So I really do hope that all makes sense, and that I didn't ramble too much. But please let me know in the comments if you're on Facebook or on Instagram, DM me. Let me know if you have any questions at all. Let me know if maybe you've tried this method and didn't really work for you, or if you think that you're going to try it, please let me know. Have a good day.